Hello again.
Hello, fancy seeing you
Long
here.
time no see.
Now, how do I move this again? The complications of, no, I put it that way, don't I? Yes, and then it comes onto this screen. So, and I do that, and then do that, and lo and behold, I'm now onto this screen. I know, can you be on two ones at the same time? I know various people have put things in the chat on the other one, saying, can you send the link and things like that, because people seem to don't seem to. I just saw when I left, Anya had just said, Emmy, can you send me the link?
Actually, I'm going to ask Sari to share the link on the other teams. So
yeah, great. Right, I shall just take 2 minutes and then come back. So I will see you. Been a good session so far, though, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, but see you in a while.
Hello, Ursula. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you? And how are you? I'm a bit tired. I just noticed, and I think I cannot speak English anymore.
Out of practice. You're not
absolutely.
Not doing enough work with us. That's why.
Yeah, that's the reason. I was just thinking I'm a bit glad that I don't have to do a presentation today because I might be lost for words. But it might come back to me. So yeah.
I'm sure it would.
Yeah. I hope very much.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
I think I just realized I didn't register for the AGM. So I did at the last minute, actually.
So you can't come then.
Oh,
So sorry.
But
Sari has put the link in the chat for in the other one. So luckily, anyone who was on that who can't find their link or forgot to register can still register. I think it's very useful having our chair attending there.
I think, given the circumstances, it might be wise to wait a few minutes longer.
I think so. I think so. See how many people are organized enough to have the link.
We were both in panic for a short second.
Hi, Anya.
Hi.
Glad you managed to log on. And Eileen as well. The top of the morning to you, Eileen. Is it still morning for you? Or is it afternoon now?
Wrong question, Richard.
Yes, she's disappeared as soon as I said that. It's a very nice kitchen you have there, Ruth.
I'm moving around the house, you might have noticed. To keep on leaving the room that the children enter.
Yeah, I assume they've had their dinner and they're off now, so you can come in.
Which is top parenting skills, I think.
I know Steve Staunton is trying to log on from New Zealand. He's just waking up, I think.
Well, I just wonder how many people are panicking right now because we have 40 people at the conference and now it's 11 of us.
Yeah, I think it may have been an error to change logins, but there we are.
Yeah, I didn't have the link, but Emmy kindly rescued me.
And Gallus and Anya.
When I left the main Teams conference room, Ed was still in there. I wonder whether there's a couple of people who hadn't quite
Understood.
I will briefly log out and go and see if there are people left and guide
That
them
would
here.
be really helpful. Thank you, Emmy.
See
that
you
would be
soon.
really helpful.
I tried to join using the link that I had received, and it didn't go to Teams. It just told me that I should that it doesn't work with my my phone. So I don't know.
But you have got here somehow.
Yes, then I went back to the old discussion and then found that there was this, Sari had put the link there.
I see.
So that was, but otherwise, with the link that I had originally received, I couldn't have joined.
Oh, okay. Hi, Steve. Glad to see you've told Teams off enough for it to open up.
Yes, I'm not a big fan of it, but and especially with a brain that's only been awake for about half an hour, wanting to throw the laptop across my bedroom is not a good idea. But made it work.
What time is it there?
It is now 6:20 in the morning.
Okay, well, thank you very much for getting up at 6 in the morning to join the AGM. That's beyond the call of duty.
I can't really say that I'm up yet. I just put a jumper on and left my laptop by my bed last night just to see whatever time I woke up.
Well, you won't want to hear this, but you missed a great first half of the conference.
I caught the last little bit of the conversation just then about the kind of counterculture perspective of effective family members, and thought that was pretty cool. That was just obviously a different way of kind of
it's really interesting when people come up with just a different way of thinking about things, and just, you know, it's very helpful to get you out of your tram lines.
Yeah, absolutely. The involuntary kind of counterculture that kind of rejects the. I think you'd said that rejecting just how rejecting the mainstream stuff, even though they're not necessarily willing to, but simply because it's not helping them with the needs that they have. So yeah, it's interesting to see what we can do with that idea.
And I thought Ed's question, which we didn't have time to go into properly, really, was what she was describing was an individual decision, in a sense, individual journey that some people make to do that. And Ed's question was, how can we make this into a movement? And I thought that was a very interesting question about, you know, it's all about what people feel they can associate with.
Kind of scary that people feel they need to leave the country in order to get the support they need. In my head, I kind of thought that people would be wanting to go to Canada, leaving the States, going to Canada for that sort of thing. But
it's a really interesting perspective to see people talking about the States as being a place you actually go to get help, because you can't get it in Canada. Really, that didn't fit with my understanding at all.
I think anybody with money would go to the States. I think there's a kind of basic requirement there, isn't there?
Well, certainly to get help in the States, you need money. I think that's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what I actually find funny is that in Germany we got two organizations where a lot of people, a lot of parents affected by addiction are involved in, and the one is very much in favor of criminalizing the use of substances, and the other one is absolutely against it. So I think it's always a bit, the big question is always who are we talking about?
Yeah. I see that Sari has actually now resent the link round to everybody who registered for the AGM. Now, that won't help people like you, Gallus, who didn't register for it, but all the people who did.
Right.
That would be useful.
Right. Anyway, I think I wonder. I think it might be a good idea if we slightly start, because at least not for Steve, but for most of us, it's already been quite a long day. And Well, the first issue is apologies. I received, I think, 1 or 2. Alana said she couldn't be with us, and but I don't, you know, it would be difficult with 849 members to check all the apologies. I would rather say all of you were able to see the minutes of last year's AGM, and so I'm used to ask, are there any changes to be made? And usually I ask this, then I wait 30 seconds, no one raises a hand, and then the minutes are accepted. And I assume this is just what is going to happen here as well. Wonderful. So I'll move forward with the Chair of Trustees report, and this one will also be put on the website afterwards. And I'll try to make it brief, so I'm not going to explain again to all of you what is AFINet and the like. I'll do this tomorrow morning. Once more, currently the trustees are myself as chair, Richard as treasurer, who will also be presenting his report, Emmy as a secretary, and I'm quite sure you will be also writing down the minutes, Emmy. Am I right?
Yes, this is correct.
Wonderful. I knew I can always count on you. Then we got Joël Bilieu, Cassandra Borges-Bortolon from Brazil. We got Rob Campbell from Australia. Eileen Farrar, I don't know. Eileen, have you been able to join us again?
Yes. She's got unmuted.
She's unmuted, okay. Then we got Candice Grunewald from South Africa, Ruth McGovern from England, Tuli Pitcairn from Finland, Ed Zippler from Northern Ireland, Alicia Ventura from the US, and Anne Whitaker from Scotland, and Celia Yaman from Turkey. We had 4 virtual meetings since the last AGM. We had as a hybrid one in September 23. And regarding the trustees, we won't have elections this year, but next year. And this is another apology. Candice Grunewald said she will take a maternity leave because she's expecting a baby, but she will be willing to keep working, serving as a trustee. And Anne Whitaker informed me that she will be retired by the end of the year and will have long travels afterwards for 6 months, which, I really envy this, but I was able to convince her not to step down as a trustee. But I think the important thing is that we need to encourage AFINet members to volunteer as trustees if they want to actively, if they're willing also to actively participate in the AFINet community. There have been several projects ongoing since the last AGM. We at the moment have two more book projects. One which will be based on the presentations from the Rotterdam conference. And this one is edited by Candice Grunewald and Emmy. And Emmy also has taken over the responsibility to have the lead on another edited book, which will be mainly be based on contributions from this year's conference. So as you can see, Emmy not only does a great job as a secretary, but she's always keeping the publication level of AFINet on a high standard. Thank you very much for that. And of course, we were involved in planning the conferences. So this year's conference, as I've already mentioned, has been a really big support with 95 people who registered and a positive income for AFINet. And I was also very happy to see that we have got 16 participants from the Global South, which I think is a really good number. And so the idea is to continue having face-to-face conferences and virtual conferences in exchange. And yeah, so like I said, at the moment we have 849 members as of today from 57 countries across all world regions. And we have increased by 165 members since the last AGM. And as you all know, membership is free. And if you are aware of any colleagues that might be, or also policymakers and the like, who might be interested in the AFINet topics, just invite them to join. We still are a small charity registered in the UK, but as Richard will point out, probably for the future we might consider to change that status, but certainly not for the next 2 years. And as you all know, the main ways of communication with our members are the website and the conferences and the webinars. And the website is, well, the main source of expenditures for AFINet at the moment. And this is also what we use the money that comes in at the conferences for. And we encourage all AFINet members to share research findings and materials that can be put on the website, because the website also serves as a repository. And regarding the newsletter, at the moment, Eileen Farrar is doing all the work. She's done it for years. Many thanks for this. Great job. But she also told me that it is really important that members send her materials in. And tomorrow I will also mention to the conference participants that also thoughts about the conference or impressions, they all can go into the newsletter, as well as ongoing research projects or practical projects, so that we keep AFINet a living network of people involved in working with family members. The 5-step method still is an essential element of AFINet and also generates income. And while all trustees have a consensus that we will keep promoting the 5-step method, we also agree that it's important to open up for other approaches like we did today regarding craft. I do not have an update regarding the number of 5-step courses that have been run since the last AGM. Probably Richard has better dates on that, but not at the moment. You're muted, Richard.
I know Jill was expecting you to ask her about that, and she keeps track of that, not me. So so if she were here, and she's one of the apologists. If she were here, she would be able to update us, but she's not.
Wonderful. It would be great if you could ask afterwards to just send me the dates so I could put them in the report. Yeah, and I think most important, like I said, we have been quite successful by holding today now the 5th conference, which I think is great since the first conference was in 2018. Then there was the COVID pandemic. And now, since 4 years, we have been holding conferences on an annual basis. And next year's conference will be in Quebec. And I think the important thing is that the date that was initially announced had to be changed. So initially we were planning for June, and now the conference will take place hosted by Joël Tremblay and with support by Melissa Coté and Audrey Bourassa on the 21st to 23rd of May. And there will be a pre-conference workshop on Wednesday, May 21. And then the main conference will be on May 22nd and 23rd. And there will be a lot of participants from Canada, and the conference will be with translation into French as well, since Quebec is part of the French-speaking part of Canada. And we expect that call for abstracts and save the date mails will be sent out within the next few weeks. And we have quite exciting keynote speakers from Australia. Sharon Dawn will present on the Parents Under Pressure program, and we'll also have a half-day workshop on May the 21st. And Miriam Leventre will present a program for families where parents are substance users, which also is a big topic today's conference. And there will be joint presentations from speakers from Quebec and Pauline Stewart from New Zealand, focusing on families of First Nation people struggling with drug problems. And Jim Offord will be the opening speaker, and he will provide an overview of research on addiction and family interventions, past, present, and future. And there will, of course, also be bursaries available for people who do not have an institutional backup to finance the conference and the travels. Furthermore, we had our 30th AFINet webinar, and in last year we decided to move to a bi-monthly mode when the pandemic was over. And so in the last 12 months, 6 webinars have been successfully realized, and further webinars are planned. And all this wouldn't be possible without the effort, especially Richard is putting into organizing the webinars and recruiting speakers. So also a big thank you to Richard for this.
And let me just come in and say also a big thank you to Eileen, who has taken over a lot of the once I get the speakers, Eileen then takes over a lot of the organization and the advertising and so on. So a big thank you to Eileen.
Right, and if we're already into thank yous, of course, big thank you to Emmy, Sari, and all the colleagues at A-Clinic Foundation, because I think since the majority of AFINet trustees are technically rather illiterate, all of these things wouldn't be happening without your wonderful support. To date, we got 3 webinars that are scheduled, one in November 24, on the 27th, which will be Francine Furland and colleagues from Canada, who will be talking on working with CSOs of people with problematic internet use, which is a new topic for AFINet. And on January 22nd, we'll have a webinar by Tobias Elgan and colleagues from Sweden on web-based intervention programs for children of parents with problematic alcohol use. And then we'll have another webinar in March 25th, where the date isn't entirely clear so far, by Debriel Jacques from the US on alcohol-dependent mothers' insensitivity to children's distress and children's blunted emotional reactivity. And all information on these webinars and on future webinars can be found on the AFINet website as always, and the recordings are also made available usually a few days following each webinar, and we have realized that quite a few, that the number of people who watch the webinars afterwards is still high, and the interest isn't declining. So there are also older webinars people look at even months or years after the webinars have been held. Yeah, like I said, 2 books are currently being prepared. And then we got the International Handbook on Addiction and the Family, where we finally were able to sign the renewed contract. And so we hope that the book will be published somewhere, hopefully this year. I'm not so optimistic regarding how the interaction with Springer has been so far, but it will be freely available to everyone, but also who prepares to have printed copies. Springer will also publish it as a print on demand edition, so printed copies can be purchased as well. And thanks to the UK Research Initiative, I think it's called, and the University of Bath, we, especially Richard, was able to achieve funding so it can be published open access, which I think is a significant step for optimizing reach of all the work that has been put into this. Yeah, and so at the end, I just would like to once again thank all the wonderful people who are making all this possible. And I think I've already thanked everyone, but like I said, very big thank you, especially to Richard, to Emmy, and to Eileen, and also to Jill, who isn't here, but she's also done a lot of support for this conference. And so before I hand over to Richard's Treasurer's Report, I would be open for questions or remarks from your side if there are any pressing issues. Doesn't seem like, so I'll hand over to you, Richard.
Okay, Thank you very much. And as Gallus said, a written version of his report and a written version of my report will be on the website early next week, alongside the notes that Emmy is taking. So for any, and for that reason, finance reports are often really not the most interesting and fascinating thing, even for people who get up at 6:30 in the morning just to hear them. I'm going to give you the bare bones of what's written in my report, and then people can read the detail if they wish, or they can ask questions if there are any things that they want to know the detail of. But I'm not going to go and explain every pound that I'm talking about. I'll do things in more round figures. So, firstly, a word about our financial status and our bank account. So AFINet is officially a small charity. That is a small NGO, non-governmental organisation. It's registered as such, as a small charity with the UK tax authorities in the UK. And we have to register it in the UK. Although we're an international organisation, it has to be registered somewhere. And because we started it up in the UK and we have a bank account in the UK, that's why it's registered there. We have an AFINet bank account with the UK Cooperative Bank, and our account is a Community Direct Plus account. And that's a type of account provided by the Cooperative Bank, which is the cooperative movement is a sort of labour type movement which grew up over the last couple of 100 years. And most of the things they do are associated with trying to unusually for a bank, they're trying to help people rather than to make a profit. So the Community Direct Plus account is a type of account provided by the Co-op Bank specifically for small charities and other community or voluntary groups, which offers free banking facilities. That's very advantageous for us and for other small charities, because having a normal business account incurs quite large banking charges, and that would erode the money that we get in. I mean, we'd pay virtually everything that we get for this online conference out in bank charges if we didn't have a free bank account. So it's very helpful. Our financial governance, because we don't charge membership fees, our income and the number of transactions is actually very small. As treasurer, I deal with these, very ably helped by Jill, my wife, and I provide reports to trustee meetings about our finances. Previously, when Gallus was one of AFINet's trustees as opposed to the chair, he took on the task of having responsibility for periodically overseeing our accounts and making sure we're not siphoning off the odd pound here and there into our pockets, ensuring therefore that everything's been done honestly, and the responsibility he's continued since becoming AFINet's chair. Okay, our income and expenditure for the year between the 14th of September last year, 2023, and the 7th of September 2024. It's not up to date because I prepared this report 10 days or so ago. And our financial report for next year will therefore go from the 8th of September of this year up to whenever we report next year. So in all numbers have been rounded up to the nearest pound. The balance that we carried forward from the previous year, as reported at the AGM in September 2023, was £1,200. The income for the year between that I just told you, the 14th of September through to the 7th of September, actually was quite a lot, because we had the face-to-face conference, and the face-to-face conference is the largest single thing. We do it every 2 years, and that replenishes our coffers. So that, coupled with the online conference every other year, which brings in a much smaller amount of money, but still brings in money, that allows us to go forward. And I'll explain our expenditure in a minute. So we earned about £15,500 over the last year. So adding to that the £1,200, we have about £16,500 coming in as income. The largest amount came from the Rotterdam conference. We got almost £12,000 out of our 16,500 from Rotterdam. The online conference this year has so far generated almost £1,000. Well, that was from the 7th of September. It'll be a bit more, but you can see the difference, about £1,000, maybe up to 1,200 or 1,300 for an online conference versus £10,000 or more from a face-to-face one. So these, we're not doing them as money-making ventures, but we do need to make the money in order to cover the expenditure. We have received about £2,250 from the 5-step method, and that's from running training courses or doing other 5-step method related work. Whenever anybody does that, a percentage, about 5%, is charged, which it goes back to AFINet. Now, as Gallus said, the 5-step method is only one of the many methods, not as many as there should be, but only one of the many methods of helping affected family members. But all other methods have a home somewhere else. And when we created AFINet, the people who created AFINet, who started off AFINet, were the same people who created the 5-step method. And so it seems sensible for that to be AFINet's, the 5-step method's home. But certainly we're not exclusive about the 5-step method. But the 5-step method, because it's our home, actually brings in some money. So that's very useful. We also ask for donations from webinars. That doesn't generate very much, but anything we get is also very helpful. So overall, including the money brought forward from last year, about £16,500. The expenditure this year so far has been about £14,000. And I'll just go quickly through that. There are ongoing core web costs. So in order to keep the website going, and we also, is that listed somewhere else? No, it isn't. So also our website administrator is the person who deals with applications and accepts applications when people apply to become AFINet members, or passes them on to me or one of the other trustees if there's a query about the application. But then he writes back to them. He has to generate web logins for them and so on and so forth. So there's quite a lot of work that he has to do, as well as our basic core costs for actually having the domain name, which has to be paid for each year and so on. So about £3,500 goes on for ongoing core web costs. We have passed £10,000 of the £16,500 across to Quebec for them to use as the basis for their funding. We're expecting to get that money back from the fees that they will get in, but nevertheless that's used as their seed funding so that they can book the university, book accommodation or whatever, and so on and so forth. And then a small amount of other money has gone out for developing resources for the 5-step method or things like that. So overall, about £14,000 has gone out. So our current funds at the moment are just over £2,500. So actually better position than we were this time last year, but that's because we've had the Rotterdam conference in between. Okay, we estimate for next year that there will be residual funds to come in from this online conference, maybe another £300 or so, and that we will get money coming in from the Quebec conference. I hope we will get the £10,000 back that we gave them and maybe more, but to be on the safe side, I've estimated only about £5,000. So if we get more, that would be very pleasant. So our anticipated expenditure next year, we're anticipating expenditure for the website. We're anticipating not much other expenditure other than on the website. But in terms of future income, we may receive further income related to the 5-step method. Again, I've estimated about £2,000 coming in for that, but we won't know until it does or doesn't happen. It depends on how many training courses are run and so on, those sorts of things. As I've reported in previous Treasurer's reports, if in the future the trustees and the membership decide we need to expand the work undertaken, we'll need to consider whether we should change our charity status to become a fully registered charity. That by being a small, in quotes, small unregistered charity, and that's an official term, it limits the amount of money we can have coming through our bank accounts. It limits the number of transactions. And what the UK tax offices say, if you're a really small charity, then that's fine. There are no problems with it. But if you start to become a larger charity and you start to get larger amounts of money, then you have to go through something in the UK called the Charities Commission. You have to register with the Charities Commission, and that's quite a tortuous job to get registered as a major charity. That allows you to have much more money coming in and going out. But we've resisted doing that so far and tried to find ways round having too much money going through our bank account, because no one really has the time, and no one, if they did have the time, particularly wants to spend the time on filling in all the forms that you need to do in order to become a registered charity. So at the moment, we're a small unregistered charity. If we did decide to become a fully registered charity, we'd also need to revise a lot of decisions, which have been re-examined many times, about whether we remain an individual membership organization, which is what we are at the moment. So everybody who joins in their own right as a member. Now, they may say, I'm the chief executive of an organization and I'd like our organization to join. And our answer to that is, well, we don't have organizational membership. You are at liberty to share your membership information, your login details with other members of your organization, or even better, you're at liberty to ask them to also join the organization as individual members. But what we don't have is a single organization being able to join and have all its members automatically become members of the organization. But if we did that, we could charge a lot more for corporate membership as opposed to individual membership. So that would be the reason we might go down that route. We don't need to do that at the moment, but if we wanted to increase our activities and we needed more money for that, that would be a way of doing that. At the moment, of course, we don't charge any membership fees at all. So we could revisit that view and think, do we want to do that? At the moment, for us, a lot of the things in the conference earlier today were about reach, about how people could reach services, and how everything to do with being an affected family member seemed to be more about the blocks there were rather than the opportunities of services which were on offer to them. Even if services were there, how do you let people know about them and so on? So our position has been, we don't want to put any barriers in the way of researchers or policymakers or practitioners coming to join an organization where we're going to try and encourage people to work with affected family members. And we think putting a membership fee in would be a barrier. So although we'd earn money from it, we'd actually block some people. So what we're trying to do is not to do it on that route and just welcome more and more people in and say, our basic mantra, affected family members are important and underserved, and we would like to welcome anybody into this organization who is interested in developing how affected family members are helped or are better understood. However, we're not going to apply to a full charity for the moment. And as Gallus said, we're not planning at the moment to start making charges for those reasons. So basically, that's the end of my report. There's a lot of more detail in it. I say a lot, it's only 2 sides long, so it's not a 50-page document, but there is more detail about the amount of money coming in and going out in the written report that you will be online next week. So anyone who's interested in that, please just go on, download it and read it to your heart's content. But as treasurer of the trustee group, I want to express my thanks to the other trustees, to Gallus for providing financial oversight, and particularly to Jill, who's provided considerable assistance with the finances and online banking transactions. And it's been a pleasure to work with everyone, and long may it continue.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And so I would just say we also give everyone a few seconds to articulate pressing questions if there are any. And again, not unexpected, but I think most people here are from Europe and have had a long day. So we have also ongoing plans, conferences onwards. I've already told you the dates from the Canada conference, and I would say with 98% probability there will be another online conference in 26. But I think it's important that all of you should, well, check yourself whether you might be interested to become a trustee at the next trustees election next year. And of course, in the past, we also had more project groups within AFINet, where we had specific topics we wanted to, well, work on, like country reports and the like. And it would be, certainly it would be useful to reanimate these approaches. So, like I said, AFINet as a network is not a one-way street. It lives through exchange. And so we strongly encourage all members not only to share in the newsletter what they are doing, but also to approach the trustees if you've got any ideas where you think you might profit from AFINet as an institution, or whether you want to, well, to start off with projects where you think you could need expertise or data from other countries, because I think there's still quite a lot of space. But like I said, I feel AFINet as a living community depends also upon the demands and wishes and active participation of its members. Yeah, so now we got open discussion and any other business. So I just wonder if any one of you still feels the need for an open discussion or other issues that haven't been discussed yet.
Well, you won't be surprised, Alice, to know that I do. So what I really want us to have a discussion on is how we can, we've talked in the past about how we attract more members and how we attract more members from lower middle income countries. And we're actually doing quite well on that. I'm very pleased we've got 57 countries. A very low, I mean, I think it's 11, 12 countries from Africa. You know, we are doing well. What I don't think we're doing as well in is attracting more people necessarily to become trustees and more people who feel that they can put the time in, not a vast amount of time, but some time in order to move us along. I mean, over the years, and obviously I was one of the people who founded AFINet, so 10 years ago, over the last 10 years, there have been a lot of really interesting ideas that people have put forward, trustees have put forward, about things that we could do, which would be really interesting, really exciting, whether they're things about translating stuff that's on the website into other languages, making the website much more welcoming in terms of other languages, whether it's developing projects like, for example, getting better quality country reports about each country. There are tons and tons of ideas that people have come up with, and we don't have the person power. There's nobody employed. The only person who's anywhere near employed is Paul, who does the website. Nobody else is employed at all. People do it in their spare time. Most people don't have very much spare time, or they do it because they're ostensibly retired, like me, and I'm not actually retired. I just don't get paid for any of the things I do. But and I'm getting older. Lots of people are getting older. Jim Orford's retired last year from the trustees, and he's 82. I'm 72, so there's a limit to how long I'm going to be able to go on for. And I want to see one or more generations of younger people coming on who not just come onto the trustee group, but actually come on and then take the lead in doing things. At the moment, most of the work that is done, I would say, in the trustee group is done by Gallus, Emmy, Eileen, and myself. So I think that most of the work is done by 4 people, and that's not sustainable, I don't think. So I suppose the discussion I'd like to have, and obviously this is only a very small group here, there's only 18 people who are here at the AGM, and that's probably our fault for messing up the link stuff. But nevertheless, I think it'd be worth, Gallus, you saying something about this tomorrow morning or tomorrow at the end of the conference, about how important it is to get a new generation of younger people who are doing research or who are practitioners or who are policymakers, coming in and making a contribution and taking a lead to how AFINet develops. Because I think otherwise people will burn out. I know, Gallus, at some point you're going to say, I don't want to be chair anymore. So I suppose that's what I'd like us to have a discussion about, even though it is late in the day for lots of people. Marilyn, I saw you put your hand up and then it went down again.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't put my camera on. I'm a new member and I would like to find out what is a trustee. I had some answers, but I can't really, understand the concept. Would you mind explaining it to me? Thank you.
Gallus, you want me to, or you will?
I think you might have less problems with the English language than I have.
Okay. I mean, most organizations have a group of people who look after the organization. They could be called directors. In business, they would be called board of directors. But as it's a charity, they're called trustees. And basically, they take the responsibility for the organization. They take the responsibility, the financial responsibility of checking that the organization's money that comes in and goes out is well spent and so on. But there's not a lot of money here. But they also take the responsibility of sort of leading the organization. So we have a group of I think 14 or 15 people from a number of different countries over the world. It'll be lovely to have someone from Africa. We have someone from South Africa, but nowhere else in the African continent, I don't think. But on paper, it only commits one to attending a meeting 4 times a year for about 1.5 to 2 hours. But in reality, the work of the organization is overseen by the board of trustees. And because there are no paid employees, and when I say the work of the organization is overseen by, it actually means that the trustees are the people who do the work of the organization. I don't think there's anybody outside. One of Alicia's colleagues, Sam, has, as I said earlier in the conference, done the registration for this conference. And Jill is no longer a trustee, but she still does a lot of stuff about finance and so on, and about the conference. But generally, all the work of the organization is done by the trustees. And so the trustee group becomes very important. And having people who've got energy and can afford to commit some time to it becomes very important. So there we are, Marilyn. That's an outline of what trustees do, and the trustees therefore decide the alongside comments from people at AGMs and so on, but they decide the direction of the organisation.
Yeah, let me add that formally it's 4 meetings per year, but I also think it's important that people actively contribute. For instance, on different levels, it might be, you know, to launch initiatives and, you know, to contact people, or if people have got technical skills, they can do it, or if people can follow up others or encourage others actively to contribute to the newsletter or provide material, translate material. This would be very helpful, and I think I will mention it again tomorrow, but we should also send around to all members a clear description of what being a trustee means.
And we have that. Eileen wrote a document last year which laid out everything about what trusteeship means.
Yeah, and I think we should do this long enough before we have the next election. But my watch says we've got 7 minutes to go, and so I'm not so optimistic that we can solve this problem within the next 7 minutes. But if any of you has got other further ideas, I think it would be great.
Me, maybe I step in. I was wondering because it's more like a project idea. I mean, Gallus and me, we are planning to write a draft for a study where we try to test the 5-step in Germany. And I need the time to do that. You know, my paper is still on my lab, and I'm just drowning in work right now. And I'm giving MI workshops on a regular basis, and I often meet people from addiction counseling who tell me afterwards, "Oh, I'm counseling family members, and I don't know what to do." And I'm always sending them the link to AFINet, try to give them information, but I think it would be a good idea, and if we do this project in Germany, we need a translation. And I think it would be a good idea to make a lot of translations in different languages to spread a more, yeah, my English is not good. Craft is very, if you're a therapist, cognitive behavioral therapist, craft is easy. But the normal counselor in addiction counseling is not a therapist. And 5 steps would be an easier way to help family members. So this is something I would be interested in. I think it has nothing to do with trustees or not, but this would be something I would try to engage in.
Well, that would be wonderful, Anja. And there are other people in Germany, Ursula, obviously one of them, who have been working with the 5-step method or developing 5-step method questionnaires and translating them and so on. Ursula, you did that 5-6 years ago, I think.
It was a bit longer ago.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, and it was more craft-based, if I remember it right.
No.
Oh, okay.
Our short questionnaire, Ursula, translated and back translated and so on. But that would be brilliant, Anja. It doesn't have to be a trustee. I quite agree. And I think getting things translated, as the 5-step method being one of them. Joel has said that they're trying to do that in France, in Canada, which would then also give us a French language version for Canada and France. But everybody is very busy, and so these things often don't get to the top of the to-do list. Sorry, Ed, you were going to come in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right place for the trustees, but Gallus, you said something today that really struck home. And I've seen this, and I don't know, Angie, you're talking about the same thing. Counselors, I find, do not like structured interventions. They like to, be with the, go with the client, go with their needs, follow their direction. And when you give them a structured intervention, I use a baseball term, they balk. They don't like it. And I kind of have the feeling social workers are kind of the same. I'm one of them, so I kind of like structured interventions. But there might be something, when you said having a structured intervention, whether it be craft, whether it be 5-step, whether it be Jeffrey Foote's initiative, there's something about advocating that whatever you do it evidence-based. Now, how we do that as trustees, I'm not sure, but I bang my head against a brick wall these last 8 years when people tell me I've done bits of it. Oh, I do bits of it. Geez, you want to climb a wall. So there might be something in that.
Well, actually, just to briefly explain what I meant was that with structured interventions, I mean that if people make the contact, or probably even before they make the contact, they get an idea what they can expect, what will be happening there. That you just explain, we look at this and at this and at this and at this, because otherwise, I think what I hear quite often from the social workers and institutions is that, well, actually, they got no plan what to do. So if they're good, they just listen. Just listening certainly is a good thing. But if it's only the only thing you do, then of course in the end the risk is rather high that the family members leave and think, well, this person has got no idea how to help me. This person is wonderful, but and probably I feel a bit relieved. But this is also something which I think would need more high quality qualitative research. How family members experience different modes of interventions. But yeah, like what you said, I notice as well, that people say, well, I do bits of something. And then I guess it always becomes a bit tricky because these are counselors who act according to their needs, but they do not check what are the needs of the client. But I think that's another big issue. We have 8:15 UK time.
This is 10:15 in Finland, so quite late. But I mean, this is just to say, this is why I wanted a discussion about capacity building, because when you get a group of people like this together, within a very short time, you can generate a lot of very interesting ideas, interesting research ideas. Gallus is already talking about doing some really high quality qualitative work. That we're thinking about how do we translate things in different languages. There's a multitude of ideas that get generated. And the problem is that people don't have the time to do more than one or two of them. So lots of things get raised as ideas and then they fall by the wayside. So this thing about how we develop our capacity is, I think, a capacity of people. We know we've got 850 people who are interested in this area from 57 countries. I mean, there's no worry about that at all. What we don't know is how we can get some of them to give a small percentage of that time that they've got alongside the commitment and the interest to doing something that will take any one of these ideas a little bit further forward. Anya, I know that Gallus wants to finish, but I see your hand up.
Yeah, he's my husband. He has to wait. Why not make a meeting for that? Invite all the members not to a webinar, but to a meeting where they can provide ideas for AFINet. I mean, of the 800 whatever members, won't come a lot of people.
Oh no, absolutely.
But I think if there are 20 and we have, I don't know, 1.5 hours or 2 hours time, they can make a spotlight slide or something, and then we can discuss. Because in AGMs, it's normally not enough time to discuss ideas.
Good idea. That will go into the minutes, and then knowing Emmy, she'll take it forward.
Will do. Yes, thank you, Anja.
Yes, I think the big thing is how we could frame it. I was thinking about something like probably AFINet open space or something like that. You know, where we, I think the big thing about the conference today or the other conferences is that, you know, we give people who don't have big fancy names in research and so on an opportunity to present what they're doing. And I think this is really important. What do we do with people who feel the topic is interesting, especially if they're close to practice and not so much research driven? And then we say, well, we provide a space where you can throw in your ideas and we can see whether we can support you or whether we can probably develop joint ideas for research. I think that's a good idea. We also, I think it would also be good if we discuss this further at the next trustees meeting, because it needs to have a structure as well, because nothing is so frustrating than to throw in something that sounds great, but in the end you just realize no one has got a clue what to do. Okay.
Some very important, interesting things coming up in the chat as well, and some people offering to do things as well. So thank you very much, Marilyn. Amazing that you work in French and Russian as well as English. And what language do people speak in Cameroon? No answer. Okay.
No idea.
Right. Yeah, we speak both English and French.
Oh, I see. There's not a Cameroon language.
Yeah. We have a lot of, local languages, so more than 20,
right.
250 local languages. So we have official languages.
English and French. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like in India.
So wonderful. Now we'll have what's it like, a bit less than 12 hours break, and then the conference continues. So at least I'm quite sure that, oh no, Steve, I think, well, you might be tired when you join the conference, but it's not, the conference itself won't be as terrible as getting up for the AGM. Okay, thank you all for joining. Big thank you again to Emmy for writing down the minutes. And see you all from our European perspective tomorrow. And Steve, see you today.
Bye-bye all.
Okay.
I'm just going to apologize. It'll be Friday afternoon, or Friday evening, so I might have a beer in my hand by then.
Okay. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.